We're just waiting on Janani and Bimal to come back into the room. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here today as we gather to honor and celebrate the life of my beloved brother, Shree Jaisimha. Your presence means so much to our family during this time of remembrance and healing. My brother, Shree Jaisimha, or Jay as he's called in our family, was born on July 22nd, 1973, at the KK Hospital in Singapore to our mother, Radha, and our late father, T.G. Vijayaraghavan. From the very beginning, he was the talk of the town. My mother still remembers how people would come by just to catch a glimpse of this beautiful baby boy with a head full of black curls and rosy cheeks. Word had spread that she had given birth to a baby who looked like he belonged in a movie. And 5 years came along, and 5 years later I came along, and let's just say I didn't get the same rave reviews my brother did. In fact, there are a few less than subtle comments floating around about how somehow the girls in our family didn't quite match up to the boys in the looks department. But even at just 5 years old, my brother was ready to stand up for me. One of my aunts recalls how someone had made a passing remark of how ugly, for lack of a better term, I looked. And without a missing beat, he turned and he said, in perfect Tamil, which was practically his first language at that age, "Don't worry, when she grows up, she'll be very beautiful." And so he was my first and fiercest defender, even then. And as he grew up, it became clear that his first great love, after a mom, of course, was books. And he devoured them. And I still remember how he'd insist that my mom buy him every title in different series, especially the Hardy Boys. He would get so completely lost in his reading that he wouldn't hear anything around him. In fact, my grandfather, our tata, was convinced he might be hard of hearing and told my mom many times that maybe she should get his ears checked. But no, he was just completely immersed in the world of his stories, and he wouldn't look up until he had turned to the very last page. Some of my favorite memories with him are from our childhood in Singapore. I must have been 4 or 5, and he must have been around 9 or 10. And we'd spend hours playing outside, climbing trees, bouncing balls, walking around town, and just visiting little tuck shops, playing with cousins. And I can't even remember really what we did or what we bought, but whatever it was, it just felt like magic. It was just simple, innocent joy. And when he was around 12, we moved to the US, and I still remembered the journey vividly. My mom must have had incredible confidence in him because she actually put the two of us, just kids, on a Singapore Airlines flight all the way from Singapore to California. And we were met by our aunt and her family on the other end. But those many hours in the air, it was just me and him. And he was such a calm and steady presence beside me. You know, I had terrible air sickness on that flight. I mean, really bad. I threw up many, many times. And he never once complained or made a fuss. In fact, the flight attendant felt so sorry for us that they moved us to the front of the plane, to the first class cabin, hoping it might help. And it really didn't. I mean, I kept throwing up. And some of the older passengers looked at me with dismay, probably wondering what this poor boy next to me had done to deserve that kind of a flight partner. But not my brother, you know, not a single word of annoyance, not a hint of mockery. He just stayed by my side, patient, quiet, and kind. My brother was a great brother, and he always took care of me. Sometimes a little too much. You know, he would be protective, even possessive. I remember how growing up, he would argue with my male classmates who called me on the phone. He'd threaten to fight them off, even though they'd call just to discuss simple homework. But deep down, I knew it was only because he loved me fiercely, and he always wanted the best for me. After we arrived in the US, He finished middle school, started high school here. He developed a stutter early on, and he never really let it hold him back. He didn't feel sorry for himself. He just carried on, always with his quiet determination. Soon after, our family made the big decision that he would return to Singapore on his own to complete his O-levels and A-levels, while the rest of us, my parents and I, would move to Chennai in India. Looking back, it amazes me. He was still so young and already so independent and determined. While most teenagers his age would be figuring out what to wear to high school, he was navigating life in another country, on his own, focused on his education and his goals. He took it all in his stride with the same quiet strength and sense of purpose he carried throughout his whole life. But he always kept that playful, caring spirit. He had a mischievous side, and he loved to make us laugh. I remember us putting 2 beds together when he would come back to Chennai to visit us so that we could sleep side by side as a family and talk for hours. He'd share stories about all the funny things that his classmates and he did, and those were definitely some of the happiest nights of my life. When he moved back to Singapore, he lived independently with our grandfather and did so well for himself. And I'm so proud he studied and got into the National University of Singapore, one of the most competitive schools there. He earned several distinctions all on his own without the kind of parental guidance that many of us are lucky to have. Now that I'm a parent myself, I admire even more how much he achieved during those years all on his own. And after finishing high school, he completed his national service in Singapore, something that takes a lot of grit, and then went on to college. We weren't in Singapore with him during that time, but he would write us letters, and from the photos that he sent, it was clear that he had a really full and joyful college experience. He also formed deep, lasting friendships, ones that stood the test of time. Even just a couple of years ago, he was still in touch with a few close friends from that chapter of his life. And in true Jay or Shree fashion, he helped many of them quietly, without ever drawing any attention to himself. I remember one friend who had a dream of climbing a major mountain somewhere in Asia, and that's quite an expensive and ambitious goal. And Shree came back quietly and made quite a generous contribution to help him get there. And he never once mentioned it, but that was just who he was. He didn't talk about helping people, he just did it. And his friendships meant the world to him, and he showed that in the most sincere and humble ways. He was always trying to help me get ahead too. During visits, he'd try to teach me things for the next school semester. Though I didn't always pay attention, he tried so hard. And that's only because he truly cared about my success too. I remember when he got his first job, I never forgot that he bought me a Bulova watch with his very first salary, and then later took me to Sentosa Island in Singapore. Soon after I finished college, our father fell ill, seriously ill, and though Jay was visibly shaken by it, as any loving son would be, he continued to stay grounded. And at the time, he was enrolled in his first master's program at the Nanyang Technological University. And despite the emotional toll of our father's illness, he poured himself into his studies and completed the program successfully. It's something that I've always admired about him, his ability to keep going, to stay focused, even in the face of uncertainty and pain. He didn't let life's hardships derail him. He carried on with strength and grace and still managed to grow through them. In time, Jay was fortunate to be introduced to my dear sister-in-law Padma, truly one of the greatest blessings in his life. Their bond was something special, built on quiet strength and deep love. And in 2005, he joined Panasonic. Shortly after, they were blessed by the arrival of my beautiful niece, Janani, and soon after, they made their home here in this area. He became a father for the second time in 2013 when my dear nephew, Bimal, was born, and he was so proud of them. Just a couple years ago, Janani graduated from high school and was admitted into Georgia Tech, and Shree was absolutely beaming with pride. As I was looking through photos this past week, I could see it clearly in his face. The pure joy and overwhelming happiness of a father watching his daughter take flight. It meant so much to him, and he was so proud of the young woman that she had become. Senoia became home for over 2 decades. In that time, Shree built not only a life but a true community, a circle of friends, colleagues, neighbors who admired him and cared deeply for him. And that love has been so evident this past week. And we've been overwhelmed in the best way by the outpouring of support. So many have come by, brought meals, shared stories, and simply sat with us in our grief. It's been incredibly heartwarming to see just how deeply he was respected and loved, not only at work, but in every corner of his life. He had this quirky way of showing that he cared. His love often came with like a healthy dose of worry. He worried just about a lot. And no matter what news I shared, he'd somehow dig up like a study or a research paper or some obscure news article to remind me of all the possible things that could go wrong. And most recently, my family and I, in the past year, we moved to Winter Park, Florida. And he sent me an article from 25 years ago, in 1980, about how a sinkhole had once swallowed an entire car dealership in Winter Park, just in case I was feeling too relaxed about our new home. But that was just his unique way of saying, I care, and he really, truly did. He worked hard constantly. Even during visits, he always was working. Back then I thought he didn't know how to have fun. But now I see that working, building a future for his family, was his way of showing love. I always wished Jay would just let loose a little, have fun the way I imagined or defined fun. I imagined us going on vacation together with our families, sightseeing, maybe lounging on a beach somewhere. But for him, joy looked very different. If he had time off, his idea of a perfect trip was a visit back to Singapore. And even in Singapore, he wouldn't do the typical touristy things that I would do, no shopping, no fancy restaurants. Instead, he would just spend his days walking from temple to temple, visiting old friends, checking in on relatives, and retracing the same streets that he wandered as a boy. He didn't just visit Singapore, he relived it, breathing in memories with every step. And one of the most touching things he did on his last trip was visit our cousin, Govind. Govind is much older than us and has been quadriplegic for most of his life. But growing up, he was a quiet and steady presence in our lives. And Shree never forgot that. Now Govind lives in a group home. His father, our dear uncle, has passed, and his mother is quite elderly. And I'm not even sure if Govind fully understood that my brother was there to visit him, but that didn't matter to Jay. He simply wanted to go to be present and just to show up for people and for someone he truly cared about. And that's how he expressed love, quietly, loyally, and wholeheartedly. And his last call to me, still plays in my mind. He was worried about the Epstein-Barr virus, and I told him not to stress, that it would pass. He carried so much, and I wish I had told him much more how much I loved him, how thankful I was for all that he did, and how much he truly inspired me. It's been moving to see how loved he was at Panasonic and how many people came forward with memories of him. He truly was a simple, hardworking man who found joy in the little things. And life wasn't easy for him, but he never complained. He just kept going quietly and steadily, always treating people with kindness and respect. And he lived healthily too. I still remember how he never liked me eating sugar. If I had a big piece of cake, he'd snatch it away before I could finish it and throw it away. He was always looking out for me, reminding me not to hold my phone too close for too long to my ear, not to stand near the microwave. He just cared so deeply, not just for his own well-being, but for everyone that he loved. And his passing came far too soon. And the last 4 weeks, things happened and deteriorated so quickly that we never got a chance to say everything we wanted to. But I want him to know that I love you, I'm thankful for you, and I'm so proud of you. Going through the old photos reminded me just how full of a life he lived, even if it was cut short. He lived it well, with integrity, devotion, and love. And I'm so proud to call him my brother. Now I'd like to invite Shree's beloved wife, Padma, to share a few words whenever you're ready.
My dear husband, Shree Jaisimha, has been taken from us far too soon. He did not deserve to go so soon. He was a loving, caring, and completely devoted person to his family and friends, a wonderful husband and father. I met him for the first time in Singapore in February of 2003. We had a lot in common and we gelled right away. So we were married in November of 2003 in India. For our honeymoon to New Zealand, and that's when I could see what a loving person he was. I loved his positive outlook towards life. He was so full of life and free-spirited. Our daughter, Janani, was born in April of 2005, and our joy knew no bounds. We were extremely happy as parents. Shree was a dedicated father and adored Janani with all his heart. He was very protective of her. I still remember. Janani was going into pre-K, and Shree was so worried. When asked why he was so worried, he said, "I'm concerned because she doesn't know how to subtract yet." I said, "Jay, she's in pre-K. Kids in pre-K are learning to count. Janani knows how to count, add, and you're worried about her not being able to subtract." So that's the type of person he was. He was extremely passionate towards teaching. If Janani says, "Daddy, I have a question with my AP biology class," there was an AP biology book the next day. So he would order the book, get it to her, and say, "Okay, are your doubts cleared now? I mean, do you know, have your questions been answered?" He was extremely passionate. Janani was his pride and joy. When she got into Georgia Tech, he was extremely proud. He was a man of few words. When she got into Georgia Tech, the only thing he said was, "Good job, Janani." So he wanted Janani to do something in the medical profession. That was his wish from a very young age. The last set of books that he ordered before he went to the hospital were her MCAT books so that she could do well in her MCAT exam. Shree could be relied on to always come through for me and our family. It didn't matter what was going on. He was a source of support and strength. In every sense of the word, he was my partner. Did we argue with each other? Yes, we did. The arguments made us stronger as a couple. He taught us how important hard work and dedication are, but never failed to put family first and go to any length for our happiness. His passion was to read and gain knowledge. He loved to read books. Needless to say, Amazon was his best friend. At least 3 to 4 books, hardcover technical books, would come to our house every week. Even Alexa says, "Shree, there is a book I recommend for you based on your purchase last week." That's how passionate he was. He not only bought books for himself, but he inundated all of us with books. Our son, Bimal, came along in 2013, and we were extremely happy. 2 years later, we knew he was not as attentive as other kids of his age. So Shree was the first one to notice this as well. And my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 5. Despite this huge challenge that had faced us, Shree and I, Shree was not discouraged and saw Bimal's potential. Shree really took it upon himself to teach Bimal and bring him up, involving him in many activities. Shree believed that Bimal will come out of his challenge. He was truly an amazing dad. Last year, Shree went for his yearly physical, and that is when we were told his bone marrow was weak. We were consulting with the best doctors at the Emory University Hospital. We were told bone marrow transplant was the way to go. His transplant was done end of last year. He was fine, he recovered quickly, and was getting ready to return back to Panasonic this March. But he contracted a virus, and things turned for the worse too quick, too soon. Every time I take him to the hospital, we always come back home together. The only regret I have in life is not being able to bring him back from the hospital this time. It hurts so much, so much. Shree was my rock. When I was worried, he said it would be okay. When I wasn't sure what to do, he figured it out. He was completely dedicated to his children in every way, and their strength these past few days is the best sign I could have that Shree is still here with us in spirit. He gave me the experience of being deeply understood, truly supported, and completely and utterly loved. And I will carry that with me always. Most importantly, he gave me the 2 most amazing children in the world. Shree will be with us always and hold a special place in our hearts that will never be taken. The memories we have of him will be with us forever, and he will be missed so, so, so deeply. I love him so much, and he will be with me forever. I would like to thank every single one of you for coming today and providing the support that we need at this time. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite his amazing daughter, Janani, to say a few words.
Hello, everybody. Today we gather to honor and celebrate the life of my dad, a man whose quiet strength, deep love for family, and unwavering support for education shaped all who were fortunate to know him. My dad was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He didn't need to say much to show how much he cared. He expressed his love through his unwavering support in my academics throughout my life. One of the earliest memories is studying basic functions in Kumon books in our old home. For every subject I needed to study, a book would show up at our home the next day. In fact, my entire academic career can be documented through the workbooks I possess, with the latest edition being a brand new set of MCAT books to support my medical dreams. My dad's love for books was fueled by his continuous passion to study and gain knowledge. He valued knowledge not for the sake of accolades, but because he understood that education could open doors, foster curiosity, and allow us to live lives of purpose. His academic career is nothing short of amazing. With 5 master's degrees and 2 MBAs under his belt, nothing would get in the way of his passion. Getting into Georgia Tech was a great accomplishment for me, but what truly made it meaningful was knowing how happy and proud it made my dad. Daddy was a man who found peace in the quiet moments. He thoroughly enjoyed long walks, so much so it was his only wish for his 50th birthday. He would often talk about topics such as politics, the stock market, banking, and the current state of the world. Only the most exciting and engaging topics, of course. I would be lying if I said I didn't try to get out of some of those conversations a couple times. But he would also talk about his childhood in Singapore and in the States, and how he valued family from a very young age. It was sweet to hear his silly memories and the rebellious things he would do as a kid that really unveiled his mischievous tendencies. As he is known for being reserved majority of the time, he can really talk when given the opportunity. My dad always wanted a simple life. Throughout life, I can recall him saying, "Keep it simple," whether it be order on a menu, booking a hotel, even the classes I wanted to take. He taught us that true contentment comes from living in balance, being kind, and appreciating the simple pleasures life has to offer. Life is about having peace of mind, taking care of one's health, and sharing those moments with the people you love. I will walk forward with the values and lessons you instilled in me, Daddy. Daddy, I wish you can come to Singapore with me once more. I want to see NUS with you as my tour guide. I want you to tell me to keep up while I lag behind you and complain about the walking. I want you to reassure me that everything's going to be okay even after I mess up. I want you to ask me if I'm wearing your clothes even when I obviously am. I want to be able to tell you I coded by myself without needing your help for once. I want you to yell at me for going below the speed limit in our neighborhood. I want you to tell me to keep life simple. I want to go to TCVY once more with you. I want you to see me to get into medical school. Most of all, I want you to tell me to keep life simple and to prioritize my health. I miss you so much, and I know you're always here with me. I promise to take care of Mommy and Bimal, and I promise to become Dr. Jaisimha. Please guide me as I go through my firsts and my failures and celebrate my successes. Your support has always meant the world to me, and I will walk forward with the values and lessons you instilled in me. And I want to thank everybody for coming here today, seeing the legacy he left behind. It's really special and really meaningful. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to invite any other relatives who would like to say a few words.
I'd like to, I've had the privilege of knowing Jay for the past 20 years as his brother-in-law. In his short but accomplished life, I can think of 4 words that best describe Jay. Number 1 is family. His number 1 priority was his family. He was an exemplary husband, father, son, brother-in-law, and friend. He was a very mild-mannered gentleman. Education of his children, as you can tell, was his number 1 priority. As everyone has said, a constant stream of workbooks and textbooks always filled his household. Janani and Bimal's academic success is all due to Jay and Padma's diligence as parents. Number 2 word that comes to mind when I think of Jay is work/education. 14-hour days were the norm for Jay. Finishing work at 10 p.m., conference call at 6 a.m. were a typical work day and work week. Work allowed him to travel around the world, and I understand he had multiple colleagues all over the world that regarded him very highly, including Japan, India, Germany. I thought he had 2 master's degrees. I had no idea he had 5, but 5 master's degrees, PhD almost fully complete, a law school aspirant. His ultimate goal, I think, was to become a patent lawyer. Last week, Jay told me that he had 15 patents, but somebody told me that he has 52. So that tells of his humble nature. The third word that comes to mind when I think of Jay is principles. First is he sticks the course. He has been with the same company of Panasonic for the past 20 years. He has lived in the same city in almost the same house, for such long. He had no bad habits other than buying books. I've heard of one story where a flight was to be caught, and then the luggage was all taken, and then suddenly the luggage was overweight, and come to find out it was filled with books for a family vacation, so they had to empty the books. In the past year, almost 1 year to this date, he has been fighting very courageously, and he never once said, "Why me?" He just accepted every treatment and every setback with the utmost of grace. And it was only at the very end, when there were no options left, that he accepted his fate, also that with the utmost grace as well. And then the fourth word that comes to mind, you can probably think of, is Singapore. I have yet to meet a person who is in love with one place as much as Jay was in love with Singapore. I was told that last time he visited, he would walk around for 6 to 7 hours daily, just exploring the city that he loved so much. And he was also an Army veteran from Singapore. Finally, if Bimal and Janani can follow the above described characteristics that their beloved father Jay had, they will lead very fulfilling and successful lives. Jay, may your kind, mild-mannered soul rest in peace.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sai Krishna Priya, and I'm Shree Uncle's niece, or I call him Jai Chitapa. Jai Chitapa was a great man, a great father, and a great uncle to us. He was always hardworking and was always a dedicated person to family, friends, and his occupation. He always looked out for us and gave us advice on how to be better people. He loved to laugh with us and joke with us whenever we met on our vacations to Atlanta or when they came to Tallahassee. When my dad was with us, Chitapa and my dad would love to go to the movies together, and I always remember Chitapa, he would subtly walk to my dad and say, do you want to go to the movies tonight? That was always how their conversation started. They shared so many memories together and so many quirky jokes and laughs all the time. And as you may have already known and heard, he loves to read and venture new venues all the time. He always encouraged us to do the same as well, to learn more, to be knowledgeable from the books and what life has to offer. I recall when I was in college, I wanted to pursue and know more about management. I went up to him and asked for advice. His face immediately lit up and with such joy and eager to talk to me about it. He provides so much insight, and it would amaze me on how much he knew. And now when I go to his house and look at his book collection, I just think about him. He just comes to mind. When my dad passed away, he sat with me and helped me feel better. He gave me courage. He wanted to be there for my brother and I and make sure we were doing well. Around the time when I had turned 25, he approached me with the talk about my marriage. He was very passionate. He started giving me advice and started saying things like, I think he had 3 or 4 proposals, and he said, this one's good, this one you should think about it. It was just very funny, but it showed me, and looking back now, it shows me how much he wanted to be there with us as a father figure. When I introduced him to my then fiance, now husband, Vignesh, he was so happy. He had so much in common with him, and from studying at the same university to having the same interest. It's so difficult to accept what happened when I can't help but think that he's with us at home. So I told myself, he is with us. He's around us, and now he's in a place where there's no pain and suffering. We will always cherish the memories we shared together and keep him in our thoughts. We'll always carry his word and guidance in our lives. Lastly, I just want to share one more memory. I was around 7 or 8 when Chitti, my aunt, and Chittappa got married. Whenever Chitti spoke to Chittappa on the phone after marriage, she would always finish the phone call by saying, "I love you, Jay." And he would respond by saying, "I love you too, Padma." One day I noticed and I asked Chitti, "Chitti, do you think it's okay if I said I love you to Chittappa, or do you think he would think something of it?" And she said, "No, you can say it." But I was so shy that I never got to say it. And I love you, Chittappa. And I miss you a lot. Thank you for all the memories, the good times. You were a great person. And you were a great dad. Not just to Janani and Bimal, but also to my brother and I. Thank you, everyone, for being here to support us in this time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sai Prasad. It's not easy to speak today, to find words that truly express what Mr. Shree Jaisimha, also known as Chittappa, meant to me. Chittappa wasn't just a name I call a relative. He was someone I looked up to, leaned on, leaned from, and laughed with. To me, he was always Chittappa, a name filled with affection, warmth, and countless memories. I first got to know him from my father. My father had traveled to Singapore to meet him, and Chittappa made a very good first impression on my dad. When my dad came back from the trip, I was very curious about where he had gone, who he had met, what he did. Dad said he met my uncle Chittappa, and he said he was a very good-looking and a smart guy, smart man. But my earliest real memory with him was in Chennai during his wedding with my aunt. Even then, I could tell there was something special about him, the way he carried himself with both humility and warmth. He discussed with me about my studies and asked me what my interests were. That was our real first bonding time during the wedding time. I liked that he was interested and invested in my well-being and my future from day one. You always felt at ease around him. My late father, Dr. Gunasegran, and my late grandfather, Dr. Muthuswamy, both held him in very high regard, and for good reason. Chittappa was incredibly kind, intelligent, and had a rare ability to make people feel seen and supported. He wasn't just family, he was a mentor, a role model, and someone I deeply admired. He had a beautiful balance, and he was serious when needed, but had a playful spark that made him easy to be around. He helped me with my schoolwork and assignments, often so patiently walking me through tough time with assignments. This one time I had a really big physics project, and I just casually went up to him and asked him, would you be able to help me? He just stepped in without any hesitation. He believed in me, sometimes more than I believed in myself. He was, in fact, the first person to recognize the true potential in me. He encouraged me to chase a career path that had meaning, something that would allow me to grow and make a difference in our world. He was a true guide from an academic perspective and gave me valuable advices while I navigated the job market wave as a first-time job seeker. When I graduated and landed my first job, he was so proud in that moment. His happiness felt like a reward in itself. He cared so much for my aunt Padma, my sister Janani, and my brother Bimal, and all his family. On the lighter side, Chittappa had a fun-loving nature. He loved sports. He encouraged me to stay active and healthy, gave advices that always came from a place of genuine care. And one memory I'll always treasure, he was the first one who got me my first Xbox. That meant everything to me at that time, not just because it was an exciting gift, but because it came from him. It showed that he understood what made me happy. He knew what a little kid wants and how he wants to show that he is too cool in school. Professionally, he was an accomplished engineer, respected by everyone who knew him. He loved technology. We had discussed many times on how technology transforms our lives. He was interested in making mobile apps. He had many innovative ideas and encouraged me to always think outside the box. He's traveled to many places like India, Japan, and Germany, and the way he spoke about his professional experiences always sparked something in me. I wanted to be like him, well-traveled, wise, and grounded. I was always proud to introduce him to my friends as Chittappa and a very accomplished engineer who worked for Panasonic company. He was someone who you can always look up to. My very last conversation with him was a video call. He was not doing well, but he was recovering to a certain extent. I was telling him about my upcoming trip, and he was giving me advices on how I should be safe and take good care and be well. You can right away see the care and how he expresses and ensures that I stay safe while I travel. It's incredibly hard for me to believe he is no longer with us. The world feels different without him in it. Things happened so rapidly, his condition deteriorated so fast that we could not take a moment to tell him how much we loved him and how much we want him to get in the car and go home with us. We were devoted in only two goals: praying for his speedy recovery and wishing to see his smile again without any pain. We expected for a miracle and for him to come back to home and be around us. But I take comfort in knowing that he's at peace now, resting away from the busyness of life, watching over us with the same gentle smile that he's always had. Chittappa, it's hard for me to say, but thank you for everything, for your kindness, your wisdom, your jokes, and of course your Xbox. And most of all, your unwavering belief in me that I too can be someone and an accomplished individual. I'll always carry that with me, always. Rest in peace, Chittappa. You'll always be loved, always remembered. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Sashikala. I'm Padma's cousin. Shree, my beloved brother-in-law, was a man of few words, as everyone said, as that should be. Being a man of discreet, I would say. Throughout his life, he has embraced books and his professional work. like when I was the scene which I saw, I was shocked. He has bought SAT books for Janani when she was only 10 years, and and also the anatomy flashcards which were on her table during my next visit, uh, which was in her middle school, and. Like my son Sai Charan and Janani are of same age. Like he used to pull them when they were in fifth grade, only fifth grade, and used to teach them about the stock market, which my son would never they would be shocked when they go inside Jay's room and come back, and it shows his utmost passion. As my beloved brother-in-law, we had only less interactions, but memorable ones, I would say. He would always prioritize healthy lifestyle, be it diet, exercise. Like Girija mentioned, don't stand near the microwave, put the internet like modem away, and also discuss about business ideas, new ideas whenever we met, and sometimes witty too. What I would remember, he and Padma did the witness signatures for my marriage. That was significant one to cherish. And they situated me and my son when I got a project at Cleveland, Tennessee. They drove and dropped us. So me, my son Sai Charan, and my husband Sriram are grateful to all of his help, his and family's help. And my husband Sriram also has sent a word right up for him, saying, I had the privilege of getting to know Jay during the wedding with Sasi. I came across a calm, soft-spoken, and deeply knowledgeable person, someone who carried himself with quiet strength and humility. I was also impressed by his health consciousness and the way he made thoughtful choices in his lifestyle. Soon after the wedding, when we had the opportunity to visit Jay's family, we truly experienced the depth of his knowledge, character, and warmth. Conversations with him had depth, insight, and a sense of curiosity that reflected his thoughtful nature. My mom and dad were struck by his background and the values he stood for. He left a lasting impression on all of us, not just because of his knowledge, but because of the gentle and respectful way he shared it. Though we met only a few times, Jay left a profound mark. He will be remembered not only for his intellect, but for his sincerity. His presence will be deeply missed, but the impact he had on us will stay forever. And also a word from my son, Sai Charan. I have never been close to Jay Uncle, but I have always been inspired by his work ethic and how he wanted to help those around him. I remember just being around 10 years old and I was playing with Janani and he told us to do some math together. Little did I know at that time that every little action was him pushing us forward to succeed in life. Every time I visited, he would always give me advice after checking up on me, advice I never knew I needed until I followed it. Jay Uncle will always be loved, always be missed, and always be remembered. Life is a precious gift, and even though he may not walk by our sides, his spirit will still continue to guide us as we keep him alive through every act of kindness we do in his name. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you. He has built a family and home, friends and colleagues with love, hope, and devotion. It's been devastating that he's not with us. Praying to God and Shree's soul, they should give comfort and strength to his family. Shree's mom, Padma, kids, and sister Girija and family. Thank you all for your support to pass through these hard times. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Majnu. I am Jay's co-brother. Um, I did not prepare a speech. I just wanted to speak my heart today. It's extremely sad that we lost Jay at a young age. But I knew Jay when I first met him. He welcomed me into the family with his open arms. He was so warm and helpful. I know when I was first going to meet him, I was asked to brush up on my engineering books. Little did I know, I wasn't prepared for it. Every time we visited Jay and stayed with him, we had a tradition. He would always have beer in the fridge for me. Even though I knew he wasn't a regular beer person, he would have beer. And I think he's the only person who would say, let's talk technology over beer. The first time I met him, I thought, oh, beer, we're going to be talking sports, movies. No, it was always technology. But looking back, I think I'm going to really miss those conversations I had with him. The very last meeting that I had with him, we had a deep conversation about radio frequency technology with cybersecurity and cloud and all that stuff. He was picking my brain, and when he had his questions and I was answering them, I realized he actually knew everything, and he was just verifying if I was right. And after the conversation was over, he said, what you said is worthy enough to be penned. And I finally felt like, okay, I've accomplished something here. And I should have taken the lead with him and got the pen. But Jay was also a very family-oriented person. He always took care of his kids, wife, mom. And he really spoke a lot to me about how he really enjoyed growing up in his childhood days with his siblings and the cousins, and he wanted that for our family kids as well. One of those days, and one of those other conversations he had, he asked me about how if I thought Japanese people would ever sleep, and I didn't quite pick up on what he was trying to say, but turned out and then I realized a little bit later that he has finally found a match on the Japanese side of an engineer who works just as hard as he could. And my response was, please, Jay, don't plan on working 24 hours a day. That's not going to happen. We're going to miss you, Jay. We're going to miss you. And you're an inspiration to all of us. We are going to take up on all your leads to achieve great things, continue our education, and we're going to be there for Padmaka. We're going to be there for your mom. We're going to be there for you, Janani. We're going to be there for you, Bimo. May your soul rest in peace.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramesh Vasu. I'm Jay's first cousin, a brother. So I'm standing here having lost a brother, a beautiful person. We are about 10 years apart. So I've kind of known Jay, from our days in Chennai. We lived in the same area, and his mom would, push him in a pram and stroller and bring him home. So those memories are very still fresh. So I've known him as a little baby, and then of course, I guess life took him to Singapore, and there was distance, right? I was in India, he was in Singapore, and then again, I showed up here, and he also showed up here. But we did talk to each other over the phone now and then. So a few things. It was just beautiful talking to him, right? And he would get to the point right away. Like if he gets a call, he gets to the point right away. So I really loved that about him. And most of our talk was tech. I'm an engineer too, so we spoke this pure language, which only we seem to understand. But there was a beautiful connection there. But I think beyond all the stuff we spoke about, I just loved his presence, even if it was like, over the phone. And I learned today that, he has touched all of you in beautiful ways. And that's what he did to me as well over the phone. And we did meet a few times. One was several years ago when you guys were in San Jose, and I came there, my wife and my son and my daughter, we were there, we met at your aunt's place. In fact, my son still remember that meeting, what we had for lunch and all that. And after that, about 2.5 years ago, I met Jay and Radha Chitti in San Jose again. I'm so happy that I saw that I met him then. And I was almost going to see him again last year about this time at my son's wedding. He had made all the arrangements to come attend the wedding with the family, but then at the last minute he had to change the plans because he was not doing well. So little did I even think then that I would come here to see him in state. I'm really I'm very saddened by that. It's very hard to lose a younger brother. So just on the lighter side, one of the things I remember in the few telephonic conversations we've had over the years was that, and something which I have not heard mentioned here, is that he seemed to have this desire to start a idli kadai. I don't know if he's shared it with you, but certainly, which is basically for others, it's a street side Indian, place, eating place. So in the middle of all our talk about software and all that kind of stuff, the idea of an idli kadai came about, and we did knock some ideas around. So that was some of the funny thing I remember still. I'm still in shock. I can't believe what has happened. And today I've learned a lot more about him through the various speeches I heard today. And I'm so happy that he's been a beautiful person, a beautiful brother. He's just lived life right, I would say, simple and right. And there's a lot for me to learn from his life. So all I can say is, may God give the family the strength to pull through life. And Janani, you will be a doctor, believe in that, okay? If you need some motivation, give me a call, okay? And to Padma and to Bimal, I wish you all the best. And for Chitti, Girija, all of you, right? I wish God gives you all the strength to pull through. And I pray to God and all the elders of a family to give you the support to get through life. But I think the so to say, the good news is that he's just paved a beautiful path. He's given everyone clarity. I think he's taught everyone what is important in life. And with that as the guide, I think he's done the right thing. But he did it on a fast track, I would say. But he's done it. So, thank you.
So I'd now like to invite any of Shree's friends, colleagues, or neighbors, don't worry if you don't have anything prepared. You could just speak from the heart if you'd like.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rex Arul, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I am a friend of the family for the past 28 years. I studied at the University of Florida, pursuing my master's in industrial and systems engineering, which is how I came to know Padmalakshmi Muthuswamy. And over these enduring 28 years, I know almost each one of the persons connected with this family intensely, viscerally, even though culturally and religion, I am entirely different. But that is the beauty of this wonderful family, that they are all about assimilation and welcoming, as what we saw up literally bore testimony to. In the Western world, one might remember the Nobel laureate from India, poet Rabindranath Tagore. In his epochal work, he said this: "What is distant, friend? You brought me near. A friend, a stranger, you brought me near." So when everybody was speaking about Jai, his very humble days from Singapore, National University of Singapore, I know how difficult it is to get into that one. Or NTU, Nanyang Technological University, or Arizona State University, Tempe. And he was so distant, so far away, but look at the crowd at 8 p.m. and beyond Eastern, and we still have so many of us waiting to celebrate his life. And as many had observed, there are so many things about Jai, and quirky, I believe, used by Girija, was one of the things I would say, because there is this, his flair for beers, but not technology, as Majnu was saying with me, because with me, he was always motivated about pedagogy, teaching children, which was his passion. Because although I was more of an introvert like him, but I can be way more ambivert when I am with the right people and the right crowd. But he was in and out an introvert person. So he used to always enjoy all the jokes and all the other insights anyone were to offer, and surely it went in that direction anytime we used to sit for discussions. He always wanted me to write a book. And sometimes, even this was just within the past year where he was having some health struggles, one day I showed him how to literally pull over a poor man's Linux and just use it to author even books without having very costly desktop publishing software. He said, Rex, please wait, please wait. And then he summoned up Janani. And he wanted her to come and look at what I was showing him. And that was one dimension of him. Now, when I was going through some of the plaudits and encomiums coming from abroad, including from the Japanese office of Panasonic, people were pretty much pointing to how he played a role in edifying. Edifying is the word, inculcating is the other. And he always did that around anybody who was in the room. In other words, he was always forward looking, and he was a dreamer. Sometimes his ideas would race ahead of his words. And I have never seen him. I know him now for 20 and a half years, because it was during one ice storm. If people are still in the metropolitan Atlanta area, they would remember a very strong icy storm in early 2005. That is the time he probably came for Panasonic interview. And if my memory serves me right, he joined his job exactly to the date, day before yesterday, April 7th of 2005. And April 9th in 2005 was also Wednesday. And the point is, he was completely involved in everything Janani and Bimal would do. And every time when I have had conversations, his focus was always about how is this translatable to Janani. And I was a little bit involved with legal volunteering, so on and so forth, linguistics, language, religion, spirituality. And he would want to understand the perspectives that we bring. And it so happened that sometimes his quirkiness can also be very endearing. So 2 years ago, when I was at the family function that Sasikala was pointing to, it was a Friday. And as an Eastern Orthodox Christian, we do not really take any alcohol or any milk or anything on a Wednesday or a Friday. And it so happened that he had come already with this Heineken, which is his favorite, and he always used to extend that to anybody to whom he wants to discuss. And I almost took a sip and put it down. And he looks at me saying, "Didn't you like it?" And I said, "Well, it's a Friday, Jay." And he's like, "So what? I mean, are you any fasting regulations?" I said, "Well, you know what? Anyway, I need to see the priest for a confession, so I will add this to the list." And then I went on. And he enjoyed the joke about that, but you could never say to a person like Jay, no. So all kinds of thoughts were going in my mind as to, what to say, how to celebrate this person, because everyone spoke about his industriousness. His industriousness was just invincible. Anytime you go, either he'll be with books or with ideas and constantly challenging the person to just exchange what they know that he might exude as though he doesn't know. But as somebody pointed out, I think Majnu, he would actually know at least certain portions of it and would want to build up on it. Does that remind anyone of Sir Isaac Newton saying, "I ride on the shoulder of the giants"? He was one such. And also the other aspect of that was, in his complex mind, he never had any complex or trying to be beaten by ideas that others hold. In other words, he was non-judgmental. For a research-savvied mind, that is one of the sine qua non to have, and he possessed it. And as I said, he had this flair for beers, coffee, movies, walking, hiking, talking to children, and hosting meals. How many of them I would have attended over the years? So here we are. The last I saw him in person, he was very vivacious. It was almost the early morning of December the 1st. And he was telling me how he would be going to Emory, not knowing what is in store, but he was positive and upbeat. And everything seemed to be going good, as Padma in her eulogy recalled, until last week. Then suddenly things took a nosedive. So one thing, and I had no other agenda, in this entire crowd, I want to make these final comments about Jay and his celebration of life, because to me, celebration of life, according to Jay's terms, tantamount to only one thing, that is his dreams, his longings for Janani and Bimal. So I was looking at this very somber and poignant moment. What would I share to a girl who will turn 20 in just 21 more days when her father has reposed? Well, Janani gave me that confidence. In her eulogy is where I picked this one up. You remember moments ago she said, "Daddy, please help me become Dr. Janani Jaisimha." That tied me to that great poet, T.S. Eliot. His final magnum opus of 4 quartets. Janani, you will never forget these lines. Time present and time past are both perhaps in time future. And time future is itself contained in time past. Let me elaborate that. Your father, in the time present up until now, and time past, as you saw everything there, and in your heart, are contained in time future. Because you are his eyes, you are his ears, you are his feet, you are his hands. You will reify, you will vivify, you will bring them to happen. Yeah? And that is the connection T.S. Eliot is talking about. Time present and time future. Sorry, time present and time past are contained in time future, and time future itself is contained in time past. And what might have been is just an abstraction, because as a child of your age, you could think what all could not have happened, what could have happened. But this present is the reality. And so only remaining in as a perpetual possibility, those abstractions. Only in a world of speculation. What might have been and what it has been point to only one end, which is always in the present. He would also say, "Go, go, bird." Humankind cannot bear much reality, especially during these kind of tragic situations. We do not. But time past and time future. And here comes the final one. Again, what might have been and what has been point to only one end, and that is in the present. You cannot forget T.S. Eliot's these verses, because your name point those things to that. You are initialed JJ, Janani Jaisimha, as you put it. Janani, as many may not know, in Sanskrit means beginnings, birth, future. Jaisimha connotes victory. Victory like a lion, it literally means. In the past and the present. So in these two, you are always going to see yourself. And we all are going to make that work for you. And we are always going to be with all of you. You, Bimal, Padma, Auntie, and the entire extended family, including Girija. So let us continue to celebrate his life and make his dreams come true. Because the present is the reality, and you will march with gusto. God bless you. And this is probably what Jay would have felt like saying if he were to speak just before this microphone. So may his soul rest in peace, and may his memory be eternal. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Akash. I'm Jay's nephew. So we're gathered here today to celebrate his life to my uncle Jay Mama. To many and to all of us, he was Jay, a gifted engineer, a quiet thinker, and a kind man. Jay Mama wasn't the loudest in the room, but he didn't need to be. His strength was his calmness. His presence was gentle but powerful. He never demanded attention, but he always had it, because when he spoke, it came from a place of real thought and care. When he loved to read, as many people have said before, he loved going on walks, and he found peace in the quiet things. But what amazed me and inspired me was his love to share what he learned with other people. I remember one of my memories with him was when I asked him something about computers, because I think I was interested in that at the time. He sat down with me for like 2 hours and explained to me every part of the computer, how it works, and how it's evolved over time. I haven't been able to meet him that much in my recent years. I think the last time I met him was about 1.5 years ago. But in the times that I have met him, I've had many memories. Another memory was I was watching a YouTube video on the TV downstairs, and he comes to me and starts watching with me. And I think they were talking about global trade or something. Then he started talking to me about what he has read about trade and the modern global trade and how it's come to be. He explained to me for about an hour about how it's shaped our lives and how we've become to be as a society with global trade. He made that understandable for me, and I never really thought about it in the ways that he explained. Another memory I had was, I remember I was watching a video on TikTok or something about this Japanese occupation of Singapore. So I texted Jenny saying, do you have any idea if any of our relatives were alive for this? So I think Jenny told Jay Mama, and then he said he found a video of one of my Amama's brothers who was interviewed about his experiences. And he went out of his way to find this, and I really found it interesting that he was able to find this video and give it to me so I could listen to it. I wasn't really able to speak to him in his recent years. I think the last time I spoke to him was the day he passed. He wasn't really able to speak back, but I remember I could feel his kindness. All this happened so fast, so I wasn't able to speak to him in his last week. But I remember speaking to him a couple months ago, and he was talking about how it was he knew he was going to get through his positive experience. As people said, he loves to see the good in things, and he loves to always make it a positive experience. Well, he believed in the power of knowledge, as I've said, but even more than that, he believed in sharing it with people and making sure that everybody understood it. And more than anything, he loved his family. He didn't need grand displays to show it. His love was in the quiet things. The long conversations, the videos he sent, the way he made time to explain, to listen, and to care. He was always there, always thinking and there for us. Today, as we say goodbye, I think about how lucky I am to have him as my uncle. Someone who taught me, who inspired me, who loved me, not loudly, but truly. We will miss his voice, his wisdom, and his quiet strength. But we carry with us in every book we read, every walk we take, every thoughtful conversation we had with him. Thank you, Jay Mama, for everything. I love you, and I will never forget the lessons you have gave me, both spoken and unspoken.
Thank you all for that, those heartfelt tributes. And before we conclude, I'd like to leave you all with two reflections. One is from the Sai Satcharita, which was a book that Jay held very close to his heart. Though I am no more in flesh and blood, I live and help even now. These words remind us of the love and guidance of those we hold dear, never truly leave us. And from the Bhagavad Gita, the soul is neither born nor does it ever die. It is eternal, indestructible, and timeless. Jay, also known as Shree, his presence continues through the love he gave, the lives he touched, and the spirit he leaves behind. Thank you all once again for being here to honor his memory. Thank you.
My sister Sai Sudha she wanted to share a few words about Jay. She's from California. She had to leave early for her small kids, so I'll put her on the speaker. Sudha, are you ready?
Thank you. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Today, we have all gathered physically and virtually, not just to mourn the passing of my brother-in-law Jay, but to celebrate the remarkable life he lived. He was a man of quiet depth, the kind of person who just did not know things, but really understood things. His mind was sharp, always curious. He was always hungry for knowledge. He read constantly, not just for the sake of reading, but he truly loved to learn. Whether it was science or philosophy or so many different technologies, he always wanted to keep himself up to date, and he always encouraged others to do so as well. My conversations with him have never been shallow. They've always made me think, reflect, and definitely motivate me to do something more. So thank you, Jay. And he was always one of the most hardworking people that I've ever known. And I'm sure his colleagues who have joined here would definitely vouch for that. But beyond the intellect and his hard work, he was deeply a good person. He was honest, principled, and quietly compassionate. He may not have been the loudest in the room, but his presence was always felt. He supported those he loved without needing recognition, and he had a way of making you feel like you mattered. So, to end this, all I have to say is Jay always wanted to teach everyone something. In any conversation you see, be it to a child or to a grown-up, he always wanted to teach us something. And with this untimely passing of his, he still does teach us something. Life is short. Reassess your priorities and just don't run being chased around by social pressures and the duties, but reassess the priorities, and let's all try to live a meaningful life. Thank you. Rest well, Jay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.